Okay, so yes, it's late in the day, but it's still January the 14th. So here we are. We're going to do the daily Bible reading. Encourage, encourage, encourage. Find 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, maybe while you're resting on a lunch break, half of a lunch break, half of time in the morning. You first wake up, 10 minutes of it. They even have it to where somebody can read it. So 1 Year Bible online, bada bing, bada boom, there it is. 1 Year Bible online. And we're doing what? Old Testament, Psalm, Proverb, New Testament. And I'm going to jump right in. So here we go. January 14th, we're at Genesis 30, and then all the way through Genesis 31, verse 16. And that will go all the way till, where's it at? I'm looking in my Bible. 16 ends right here. And again, it seems odd to me that where they stop, but I'm honoring the reading. But here we go, Genesis 30. When Rachel saw that she wasn't having any children for Jacob, she became jealous of her sister, and she pleaded with Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die." And people just get unglued when things are not going their way. And this is serious business here. Then Jacob became furious with Rachel. "Am I God?" he asked. "He's the one who has kept you from having children." Then Rachel told him, "Take my maid Bilhah and sleep with her. She will bear children for me, and through her I can have a family too." Here we go again. We see God's people getting impatient and getting out of God's time. You notice Abraham and Sarah did the same thing, right? So that's right. Thank you. And I didn't say Siri, but I thought I did. So it's interrupting my Bible reading. But God's people being impatient, very dangerous to be impatient with God. But I get it. Sometimes it's hard to wait. And we try things in our flesh, our own thinking. Okay, well, I'm going to do this. Anyway, it happens. So there you go. So Rachel gave her servant Bilhah to Jacob as a wife, and he slept with her. Bilhah became pregnant and presented him with a son. Rachel named him Dan, for she said, "God has vindicated me. He has heard my request and given me a son." You realize in that culture, the slaves or the mistresses, the maidservants and so on, it was of that lineage, of that clan, of the tribe. So yes, it was considered, because she was Rachel's maid, it was considered Rachel's baby. Very strange. Anyway, moving on. "God has vindicated me," she says. "He has heard my request and given me a son." Then Bilhah became pregnant again and gave Jacob a second son. Rachel named him Naphtali, for she said, "I have struggled hard with my sister, and I am winning." Meanwhile, Leah realized that she wasn't getting pregnant anymore, so she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Oh my. Soon Zilpah presented him with a son. Leah named him Gad, for she said, "How fortunate I am." Then Zilpah gave Jacob a second son, and Leah named him Asher, for she said, "What joy is mine! Now the other women will celebrate with me." One day during the wheat harvest, Reuben found some mandrakes growing in a field and brought them to his mother, Leah. Rachel begged Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But Leah angrily replied, "Wasn't it enough that you stole my husband? Now will you steal my son's mandrakes too?" Rachel answered, "I will let Jacob sleep with you tonight if you give me some of the mandrakes." Wow. So they're just trading themselves like commodities here. So sad. So that evening, as Jacob was coming home from the fields, Leah went out to meet with him. "You must come and sleep with me tonight," she said. "I have paid for you with some mandrakes that my son found." So that night he slept with Leah, and God answered Leah's prayers. She became pregnant again and gave birth to a fifth son for Jacob. She named him Issachar, for she said, "God has rewarded me for giving my servant to my husband as a wife." Then Leah became pregnant again and gave birth to a sixth son for Jacob. She named him Zebulun, for she said, "God has given me a good reward. Now my husband will treat me with respect, for I have given him 6 sons." Later she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel's plight and answered her prayers. So here you go. Then God remembered Rachel's plight and answered her prayers by enabling her to have children. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. God has removed my disgrace, she said, and she named him Joseph. For she said, may the Lord add yet another son to my family. Soon after Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, please release me so I can go home to my country, my own country. Let me take my wives and children, for I have earned them by serving you, and let me be on my way. You certainly know how hard I have worked for you. Please listen to me, Laban replied. I have become wealthy, for the Lord has blessed me because of you. Tell me how much I owe you. Whatever it is, I'll pay it. Jacob replied, you know how hard I've worked for you and how your flocks and herds have grown under my care. You had little indeed before I came, but your wealth has increased enormously. The Lord has blessed you through everything I've done. But now what about me? When can I start providing for my own family? What wages do you want? Laban asked again. Jacob replied, don't give me anything, just do this one thing, and I'll continue to tend and watch over your flocks. Let me inspect your flocks today and remove all the sheep and goats that are speckled or spotted, along with all the black sheep. Give these to me as my wages. Wow. In the future, when you check on the animals you have given me as my wages, you'll see that I have been honest. If you find any in my flock, any goats without speckles or spots, or any sheep that are not black, you will know that I have stolen them from you. All right, Laban replied, it will be as you say. But that very day Laban went out and removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, all the female goats that were speckled and spotted or had white patches, and all the black sheep. He placed them in the care of his own sons, who took them a 3 days' journey from where Jacob was. Meanwhile, Jacob stayed and cared for the rest of Laban's flock. Then Jacob took some fresh branches from poplar, almond, plane trees and peeled off strips of bark, making white streaks on them. Then he placed these peeled branches in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, for that was where they mated. And when they mated in front of the white streaked branches, they gave birth to young that were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated those lambs from Laban's flock. And at mating time, he turned the flock to face Laban's animals that were streaked or black. This is how he built his own flock instead of increasing Laban's. Whenever the stronger females were ready to mate, Jacob would place the peeled branches in the watering troughs in front of them. Then they would mate in front of the branches. But he didn't do this with the weaker ones. So the weaker lambs belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones were Jacob's. As a result, Jacob became very wealthy, with large flocks of sheep and goats, female and male servants, and many camels and donkeys. So just so you know, this is not scientific. God was doing something in the spirit, because even the footnotes would say it's not clear what this method was or how it worked. Some say there was a belief among herdsmen that vivid impressions at mating time influenced the offspring, but there's not really a scientific reason. This was a God thing. It was honoring Jacob's wealth, Jacob's ability to prosper, because he was favored. God was just making a way for Jacob amidst, deception and impossible situations. God was intervening. Chapter 31 of Genesis. But Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob has robbed our father of everything, they said. He has gained all his wealth at our father's expense. And Jacob began to notice a change in Laban's attitude towards him. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your father and your grandfather and to your relatives there, and I will be with you. This is what the Lord is saying to Jacob. The Lord's telling him to get out of there. Return to the land of your fathers. So Jacob called Rachel and Leah out to the field where he was watching his flock. He said to them, I have noticed that your father's attitude toward me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. Yes, he has. You know how hard I've worked for your father, but he has cheated me, changing my wages 10 times. But God has not allowed him to do me any harm, For if he said, the speckled animals will be your wages, the whole flock began to produce speckled young. And when he changed his mind and said, the striped animals will be your wages, then the whole flock produced striped young. In this way, God has taken your father's animals and given them to me. So there again, we're not hearing all the communication, but Jacob knew this little ritual with the sticks and peeling the bark was something from the Lord, and he recognized the Lord for giving him favor with it. Verse 10, one time during the mating season, I had a dream, and I saw that the male goats were mating with the females. Females were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Then in my dream, the angel of God said to me, Jacob, and I replied, yes, here I am. The angel said, look up and you will see that only the streaked, speckled, and spotted males are mating with the females of your flock. For I have seen how Laban has treated you. I am the God who appeared to you at Bethel, the place where you anointed the pillar of stone and made your vow to me. Now get ready and leave this country and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah responded, that's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women, and after he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us. All the wealth God has given you from our father legally belongs to us and our children. So go ahead and do whatever God has told you. So even the daughters of Laban, who are now Jacob's wives, they recognize their dad's conniving, basically, and they're just honoring their husband, but they're ready to move on too. So here we go. We're going to move on, and that was the Old Testament stuff. Psalm for today is Psalm 12, verses 1 through 8. So here we are, Psalm 12, 1 through 8, and that's all there is in Psalm 12. For the choir director, a psalm of David, to be accompanied by an 8-stringed instrument. Sorry, I do not have an 8-stringed instrument. Some kind of harp with 8 strings, or I doubt if it was guitar-based. But anyway, we're reading, which was something that was probably sung. Help, O Lord, for the godly are fast disappearing. The faithful have vanished from the earth. Neighbors lie to each other, speaking with flattering lips and deceitful hearts. May the Lord cut off their flattering lips and silence their boastful tongues. They say, we will lie to our heart's content. Our lips are our own. Who can stop us? The Lord replies, I have seen violence done to the helpless, and I have heard the groans of the poor. Now I will rise up to rescue them, as they have longed for me to do. The Lord's promises are pure, like silver refined in a furnace, purified 7 times over. Therefore, Lord, we know you will protect the oppressed, preserving them forever from this lying generation, even though the wicked strut about and evil is praised throughout the land. Wow, something about that psalm even says the times never really change. The condition of broken manhood, the condition of the brokenness of all humanity appears throughout all of history. And yet God tells us to be faithful, to be kind to the poor, to be helpful as much as we can, and to restrain from lying. It's amazing. So, mini sermon. Always be thoughtful, be generous, be compassionate, be kind. Proverbs for today. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 13 through 15. Proverbs 3:13. Joyful is the person who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding. For wisdom is more profitable than silver, and her wages are better than gold. Wisdom is more precious than rubies. Nothing you can desire can compare with her. She offers you long life in her right hand and riches and honor in her left. She will guide you down delightful paths. All her ways are satisfying. I have to read more. Wisdom is a tree of life to those who embrace her. Happy are those who hold her tightly. And that was a few more verses than they even recommended, but it just felt right. There you go. So that's the proverb today. And last but not least, on to Matthew. The New Testament reading for today is Matthew 10, verse 1 through 23. Jesus called his 12 disciples together and gave them authority to cast out evil spirits and to heal every kind of disease and illness. Here are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, also called Peter, then Andrew, Peter's brother, James, son of Zebedee, John, James' brother. So James and John are the sons of Zebedee. Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who we know will later betray Jesus. Verse 5, Jesus sent out the 12 apostles with these instructions. Don't go to the Gentiles or the Samaritans, but only to the people of Israel, God's lost sheep. Go and announce to them that the kingdom of heaven is near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cure those with leprosy, and cast out demons. Give as freely as you have received. Ah, man, so much weight in that. Remember, when we're reading New Testament or New Covenant, what Jesus is speaking into the apostles, the disciples, becomes available to the whole church, all the sons and daughters. And you'll see this even after Jesus rises from the dead. The church is exploding and the disciples and the leadership are doing miraculous things. And it really is something for all believers. Moving on. Verse 9, don't take any money in your money belts, no gold, silver, or even copper coins. Don't carry a traveler's bag with a change of clothes and sandals or even a walking stick. Don't hesitate to accept hospitality, because those who work deserve to be fed. Whenever you enter a city or a village, search for a worthy person and stay in his home until you leave town. When you enter the home, give it your blessing. If it turns out to be a worthy home, let your blessing stand. If it is not, take back the blessing. If any household or town refuses to welcome you or listen to your message, shake its dust from your feet as you leave. I tell you the truth, the wicked cities of Sodom and Gomorrah will be better off than such a town on the judgment day. Wow. Okay. It's something to reject the things of Jesus when they're made available. Even more severe than the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, which you remember that we read in the Old Testament. Okay, so that's Matthew. We're going to read all the way through 23. Look, I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves, so be as shrewd as snakes and harmless as doves. But beware, for you will be handed over to the courts and will be flogged with whips in the synagogues. You will stand trial before governors and kings because you are my followers. But this will be your opportunity to tell the rulers and other unbelievers about me. Wow, persecution right there. Jesus doesn't offer it being easy. If you really live for the Lord, there will be a place and a time where you're mocked or persecuted. We're very fortunate in the United States. Most of the time, we don't come under this sort of thing. But just think of the days we live in. If you realize, even now in modern times, this is the year 2020, there's more Christian martyrdom happening in our day than any other time through history. Very sad. So very fortunate we're able to speak of Jesus in our country. Verse 19, when you are arrested, don't worry about how to respond or what to say. God will give you the right words at the right time. For it is not you who will be speaking, it will be the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Many times when we're speaking of spiritual things or talking about Jesus or the Lord or the kingdom, the Holy Spirit will give you words. You'll find yourself saying things that you didn't know that you even knew. It'll be really the Spirit of God speaking through you. Speak in love, speak in mercy, speak in grace, but speak with authority the things that you know. So anyway, moving on. Verse 21, a brother will betray his brother to death. A father will betray his own child, and children will rebel against their parents and cause them to be killed. Oh my. And all nations will hate you because you are my followers. But everyone who endures to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one town, flee to the next. I tell you the truth, the Son of Man will return before you have reached all the towns of Israel. And we can't unpack that there because people say, Well, they haven't reached all the towns of Israel, but maybe they did. Why didn't Jesus come back? One of those mysterious eternal questions. I believe it's because God is merciful and he wants as many people to come to know him as possible. So did God change? Maybe he changed his heart so that more people could know. Anyway, that's up to verse 23. I know it's late. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow in the reading through the Bible in 1 year. Okay, bless you all. See you next time. Bye-bye.